Hello and welcome to this short video that is going to be discussing our Milestone 2 guidelines. It was requested that the first video was quite helpful, so I continue to do these videos to guide you along in our milestones. So for this project now, we have accepted the client. So your role is as a lead auditor, and we've accepted the client, which is Earthware Clotheries, and we're going to perform an audit. So in this case, you're going to actually perform like management duties, and you're going to evaluate the internal and external factors. And keep in mind external factors, because students several times forget to include that. We're constantly looking within the organization, but we're not looking at outside factors such as maybe regulation, competitors, and just the environment within the industry. So that's important as well. In this part, we're actually going to be developing the auditing plan, and we're eventually going to talk about improving the controls. So we've decided to move on with the audit, and here as the lead auditor, so we have identified business objectives. So we've identified these 5 business objectives, and you are going to select one of those objectives and pretty much, so you're going to select that objective and you're going to create your auditing plan around this. And the auditing plan obviously has to address the financial statements. So for example, if you're looking at the first objective, which is the global market, and you're launching internet sites into South American countries, you're going to look as to how this can impact the financial statements. Well, obviously, if we're looking at a global market, right, we're going to have to do some foreign currency translations. In this case, we're looking to expand probably our product lines. Are we going to use the same product lines or different product lines? What types of activities will this cause us to look at in the audit? Right now, we are talking about a different country, so we have rules of that country. Does this impact IFRS? So these are just some of the instances that you'll be looking at and some of the situations that you'll be analyzing in your auditing plan. Now remember that at the end result, we as auditors are looking to audit the financial statements, which means we're going to give an opinion on that financial statement as well as an opinion on the internal controls. Now notice management assertions are related to those related to the factors within the financial statements. For example, completeness, right? When going back to our global market, launching internet sites in South America, well, we need to look at completeness, right? Is those sales from South America included in our audit? That's one management assertion that we can look at. More importantly, within the audit here is we're going to look at audit risks and internal controls. Right, so we expect some internal controls possibly around the websites, the e-commerce portion of it. If people are entering their credit card information, how is that stored? So these are just some of the factors just related to that one particular business objective, which is expanding into global markets. If you're looking at, say, the last one, which is delivery and distribution time of products, by adding additional warehouse locations, well, now we're actually talking about possibly capital expenditures, right? We might have to lease or purchase warehouses. We might have personnel issues. So depending on which objective you're picking out of the 5 above here, it depends on how your audit plan will be tailored. But the most critical piece is that when you're planning the audit, you're pretty much using the objective that you select, one of the 5 from above, and then you're creating the plan, and your plan has to have the appropriate auditing standards. And here I recommend you go to the PCAOB piece, and then also the auditing standards updates as well, or auditing standards. Most of the time that's how they're referred to within the PCAOB, or GAS, generally accepted auditing standards. And so all of those are what you're going to use to kind of justify your business risks. Obviously, management assertions, there's 10 of them, and your book has done a great job of going through them. Completeness, valuation, disclosure, just to name a few. Audit risks, here you have the audit risk model, right? And you have control risk, inherent risk, business risk. So you have all types of risks here that you're going to just discuss. And then internal controls. With internal controls, be specific. Don't just mention segregation of duties. Explain what facets of segregation of duty have to take place. So if we're looking at, let's say, reduced delivery and distribution time of products, here if we want segregation of duty, obviously whoever is receiving the merchandise into the warehouse should not be entering it into the accounting information system, as just an example. And then materiality is also, you see these guidelines right here, and so that is the guidelines from the CPA website. You're going to be using those guidelines in kind of determining your materiality here. So some students forget to do that, and that's a really critical element of our auditing plan, because we have to set materiality at a particular level, because then we know that our tolerable misstatements are at have to be below that, right? So if the client decides to pass, which means not book the audit adjustment that you are proposing, then that remains as a tolerable misstatement. And the total of the tolerable misstatement has to be less than our total materiality that we set. And the total materiality is what we're using these guidelines here for, which is like the internal control financial reporting framework. So that's pretty much what you're doing right here, these two pieces for your auditing plan. Then I highly recommend, it's only about 2 pages to 3 pages. And so right here, you'll see that. Several of you have submitted a lot more pages, 10 or 12, which isn't necessary. It's great if it provides detail, but if it's just giving some general information, that doesn't really help. So make sure that you stay as close to the page limit as possible, or if you are exceeding it, that's okay. I will not deduct points for that, but make sure that what you're exceeding it with is details and substantive information, not just general information. So make sure that you are addressing the business risks and the management assertions, and remember there's 10 of them. Make sure you are addressing the audit risk and the internal controls. And here you want to state the internal controls and the standards. Don't forget that you have to go through the standards on here, because basically that's what guides us as auditors. And then as you continue on in the rubric, you'll see that the audit procedures, right? And so basically here we have audit procedures are usually substantiative testing or test of controls, right? And of internal controls. And our substantiative testing is usually test of details and test of account balances. So you might want to address that as you're addressing it to your one specific business objective. And then with materiality, I pointed out earlier to go ahead and look at those guidelines and make sure that you're adhering to that. And then obviously make sure your citations are there. So keep in mind, if you are citing the PCAOB has 4 digits, like 2110. So make sure, and then you would have to state the name of that standard in your citation. Okay, so hopefully this helps you and guides you along in figuring out how to complete your milestone 2. And I hope it's informative and helpful. Thank you.